Hello, this is lesson 2 in our IELTS Task 1 writing lessons. In this lesson we will be looking at writing overviews for Task 1 essays. As you can see, we have a pie chart and we have a process. These are two of the different types of essays you will possibly be required to write. For task 1, you have to write an overview of the information you are given. This can be written at the end of the essay, but I personally recommend inserting it after the title, and it will complete the first paragraph. So the introduction paragraph will be a combination of the title and the overview. Rules for overviews. Only write about what you can see. Imagine looking at it without any information, just the graphic itself, just the pie chart or the bar chart without any writing. That's how you've got to imagine it. Don't include data. So just describe what you see. Again, don't use numbers, percentages and statistical information in the overview. You only need 2 to 3 sentences maximum. Usually 1 to 2 is recommended. If you need to do 3 in certain circumstances, because it's maybe a longer title, you may have to in some situations. But 1 to 2 sentences with a maximum of 3. Again, only provide information on the overall picture of the data, not all the data. Remember, the title of the essay is report the main points, not report everything. Okay, to demonstrate, we're going to use this bar chart here. It's the bar chart we used in the previous video. If you haven't watched the previous video, basically this was used to write the title of the essay. So we're going to continue using this for now. So we're going to demonstrate using a line graph. Well, actually it's a bar chart, but some people call them lines because it's time based, but it is essentially a bar chart. It shows dynamic movement. Dynamic means changes over time. Static means no time. An example of a static chart is a pie chart where it's chunks, there's no time. So they're the two main differences. This is a dynamic chart because of the time. Okay, so the bar chart shows information about male and female students in higher education in Britain in 3 time periods and measures both full-time and part-time students. I haven't taken the exact title because it's not so important. That's roughly what the title is. We've got our years, 1970 to 71, 80 to 81, 90 to 91. And everything is measured in thousands. Even though you don't really need that now, I'm just putting this information up there so we know what's in the chart. The first thing we need to do is decide what the main points of the chart are, because this is the information we'll write about in our overview. Part-time education has the highest numbers. Yes. Full-time education has the lowest numbers. Yes. Male numbers in part-time decreased. Yes. Female numbers in part-time increased. Yes. Numbers for both increased in full-time. Yes. Increased. Okay, so all of those things we know are true, so we can use this kind of information to write our overview. So again, this is the main data, which is all we are required to report. Check the information to make sure it's correct. As you can see, we do not need data, numbers. Yes, years. We don't put that in the overview. Thousands. We don't do any of that. We just write about what we can see. Using the information we gathered about the main data, we can now write the overview, which is placed after the title. To begin the overview, we must use discourse markers to mark the information which follows. Here are three typical introductions to our overview. As can be seen, overall we can see that the main information shows, or you can even say just overall, which is also common. All of these markers tell the examiner what's coming next. Overall, we can see that part-time students had the greatest numbers and female numbers increased while male numbers decreased. For full-time education, both male and female data showed a rise. There's variations of this. You could write it in a slightly different way. There is no one fixed way. You must always remember that. There's no one fixed way. People look at the data differently and might use different sentences, but the focus is to report on the main information. Okay, so we've got two sentences showing the main information. First sentence, second sentence. This technique should be practiced regularly until you're comfortable. You ideally should only take 5 minutes to plan your essay. So these parts, for example, writing your overview, should be done quickly. Only practice will do this. So what I've done here is, as a final example, I've put the title from our previous video together with our overview. And I've also given you a rough number of words that it takes up. So a combined total of my introduction and my overview has taken 55 words, which gives me 120 words for the body or completion of the essay. Again, that's rough, so that's given me 170 words. The recommendation for most essays is the recommended minimum number of words plus 30. That is just a guideline. So I'm using that as my guideline. So 180 words, we're within that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at some overviews for different types of essays. So, writing overviews for diagrams, maps and processes. Before I say this, I have to say that pie charts and line charts, the overviews are very similar. You just say what the biggest is, what the smallest is, what similarities there are, etc. We will be looking at that in another video. So, writing overviews for diagrams and processes is slightly different than for charts and tables, but the process is still the same. For diagrams, you will have to describe either changes to a map, the objective of a diagram, or the order of a process. Okay, let's begin by looking at a diagram. So here we have a diagram of hydroelectric power generation. Looks quite complicated, but if you take the time and look at it, you will see that there are a sequence of steps. Okay, so again, we're only focusing on overviews here. So if you have a diagram here where there's a process also, what you will do is you will write about the number of steps in the process. And usually you can follow this with the beginning or the first and the last process information. So the process begins here, goes through there and finishes here. Okay. Overall, it can be seen that there are 10 stages which begin with seawater evaporation. There's our words for us, seawater evaporation, and finish with the delivery of electricity to homes and businesses. So this is the delivery. This is one stage. The electricity is delivered to different businesses. Okay. is that in fact, yes, it's produced here, it's sent to the transformer station, then it's delivered. So you can count this as one stage. And another way we can say the same thing, we can see that there are 10 stages which commence with seawater being evaporated by the sun and finish with power being distributed to customers. So that's a simple overview. Tells us how many steps and the beginning and end steps. Okay, so now we're going to look at a map. This is a before and after map. As you can see, the before on the top and the after at the bottom. There are variations on this. You can give more detail. If you want to be more accurate and the dimensions are given, you can roughly give a size of the island or the map if you want. Here we've only got a guideline here, 1,000 meters, so we can't really do it. We don't know the width, we don't know the length. We can we can calculate it roughly, but for this we don't do it. Okay, so some maps will show different years, often set years apart, but sometimes no information is given, like here, before, after. No years, no time. The procedure is still the same. Your overview will describe the differences and main points. Okay. So, here's an example. It can be seen that there has been considerable construction with regards to accommodation for tourism, with notably the retention of all trees. So what we're saying is lots of things have been constructed, but the trees haven't been disturbed. They've retained the trees. So instead of saying retain, I've used the word retention. Just changed the word form. Okay, final thing is a process in the form of a flow or sequence. This is pulp and paper making process. The paper and pulp making process. Again, the same thing you do for a diagram if it has a sequence. Here, the sequence splits into two. So you have to be a little bit more careful. You can't describe all of these in your overview, so you just make it a little bit more simplified. The five stages in the first process go from the felling of the trees to the production of the pulp. Here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's the pulp. So I've called it 5 stages. Then, after that, I've said, after this, there are 2 separate processes of 5 stages each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Okay. I didn't notice that was 6, but I can just adjust. You get the general idea, okay? Because you don't have too many sentences, so you're not going to describe all of this. You're just going to say, there are 5 stages. There are 5 stages from this stage to this stage, and there are 5 stages each. Okay, so a short recap. Overviews for all the different types of tasks 1 essays are identical at certain stages, so we introduce them in the same way, but when we're describing them there are slight variations. But you should practice writing all 4 types regularly, because you don't know which type you will get in the exam. So they always begin the same way. Overall we can see, it can be seen, etc., etc. The diagram shows, etc. It's worth noting that a good overview will increase your score. It tells the examiner that you understand the data and can accurately provide a basic view of what can be seen. So we can provide you with lots of examples for you to practice if you require. And again, once you've watched this video, if you have any questions or queries or would like some advice on different things, then please course, contact us, and I will gladly give you any assistance you need. And once again, thank you for your time.